Good afternoon, Dr. Sharma. Thank you once again, sir, for joining us for another session of mental health.
Good afternoon, Dr. Vasconcelos. Good to be back with you. Look forward to a follow up on our last video on racism. I believe we're talking again.
Absolutely, absolutely. Today is June 16, 2020, and we are going to continue dealing with racism. And previously, Doc, you addressed what is racism. And today we're going to look at a lot of people are reacting in a very aggressive manner in dealing with the issue of racism and social justice in the middle of COVID-19. My question is, as a doctor, what are the psychological aspect of this situation that you can address as to why people are so aggressive?
The generational hurt, as I mentioned before, is something that people can repress. So, defense mechanism that we use as human beings is repression, where we'll keep a lot of those memories and pain inside, internalized, or maybe even pass some of those on through our genes. We know that our genes are affected a lot by our social environment. So, how we think and how we feel can also be impacted on events from the past that we're not necessarily allowed to express because of cultural restrictions. So when moments occur in time where people feel violated and angry and hurt, those events now precipitate this reaction. So those repressed feelings explode out into aggression. It's also seen in grief reactions where people can express grief as anger and violence, and that's a reason why people can show those behaviors that are manifest so negatively in the sight of others. But as human beings, we really have to work to control ourselves, control aggression. Aggression is a primitive instinct that is protective. It's not meant to be destructive in a general sense, and it's absolutely unfair that we see people behave in a manner that's hurtful to others and hurtful to people who are innocent, that looters are abusing and using the situation to obtain benefits for themselves that are not right. These are criminal minded people using a moment or moments of anguish to for their own self gain. So I think the two should not be mixed up. I think most people who are outraged, angry, and are expressing these deep-seated feelings that I said may be carried on in society, in our minds, for legitimate reasons, for feelings that we've not been heard before. Now is the time for us to be heard. Let us protest, and these are rightful opportunities for protest. But violence and aggression, as we see it, the burning of somebody who is innocent and having his vehicle destroyed is not acceptable. And the thing is, I think, Dr. Vasconcelos, we need to clearly separate the two, that outrage, expressions of outrage are coming up as a natural reaction and should not be discouraged. The ventilation of grief, as you know, is helpful. It is a way to let people talk, even if they're talking very angrily. At some point in time, the anger will subside and we can start to heal because that's the ultimate goal. Unfortunately, these defense mechanisms do operate unconsciously. So we're not really in control of how they will manifest. We see another one which is called acting out. It's sort of a primitive defense or a childhood defense where, kids, they act out their feelings. And in a way, we as adults also can act out. We act out grief, in behaviors that are very disturbed, as you see at times of funerals, acting out of emotional expression. A person may at a funeral site be laughing hysterically. They're not. That doesn't mean that they're happy. They're just so emotional. They're acting out the grief. We see acting out now in these rage type of behaviors. So that's another defense that I think we should reflect on. And also, people can use a defense which is not good if it's used for this purpose to rationalize bad behavior and say, well, because my person of my race was beaten up, I'm going to beat up the next person I see of another race and justify it for that reason. There's no justification. It makes no sense. They're displacing a rage from one situation onto another. It is not healthy. It is not humanistic. It is not mature. It's got to stop. And I think we're at the time now in our modern era of year 2020. We need to start being educated in our brains, educate our families, so that a dialogue can come about where we can look to heal heal in the schools, heal our young people. If their brains are not emotionally stable and they're charged up and they're acting out their aggressions, how are they going to heal when they become adults? And a lot of us who are behaving irresponsibly now were victims of this process of not getting that healing done early enough in our lives.
Doc, from a medical psychological point of view, what would you recommend or say would be the very first step in the healing process?
What we're doing now is part of that, becoming educated, opening our minds to the fact that we are in control of our brains. Our brains has got a lot of things inside that operate in conflict sometimes to each other. Defense mechanisms are there in all of our brains. Anger is within every one of us, but we're able to control it. Those of us who have maturity, who are able to see things in a broad way, when we're having a narrowed perspective, when we close our minds, when we refuse to see the broad picture, that human beings, as I've said it before, Doc, and you know that's true, we all build on the same fundamental genetic code. We're all vulnerable to the same diseases. The COVID virus doesn't care if you're looking dark skinned or light skinned. Whatever skin color you are, you're going to be attacked by that virus because we all the same people. We all have the same feelings. We all have the same goals and desires. It doesn't matter what race we are. By the way we look, we're all the same. We're all the same, and yet we're all different because we know, none of us have the same fingerprints, and we all look differently, except identical twins. So and even identical twins will have a little difference, they may have identical hairstyles and so on, but they have wear different shoes. So we all a little bit different. So we got to respect ourselves. We got to understand that principle that we are one, truly one as a human race. And the things that make us different are those behaviors that impact on us, the attitudes of others, the cultural values that are different. Respect. I think the fundamental thing is to have respect for each other. As I said, know that we are really one and the same as another person. If we are blind, we cannot see color anymore, and we got to know that we don't have to be made blind to become knowledgeable, that really the way a person looks matters. It is how we are inside. So respect, and I think this respect has to start in schools. There is a lot of opportunity for rights, and those things are very commendable, especially in the USA, which is the country that promotes so much in terms of democracy and freedom of rights. It's wonderful, but it's also we got to promote good behavior, good conduct, good thinking. It must be demonstrated from above. We must see our leaders demonstrate that. So there's a combination of efforts. We have to see it as examples in our spiritual leaders who we value and respect. They're giving us good advice. We must see it in their conduct. So the conduct of our adults, of our leaders, of our administrators, our teachers should be exemplary. And we should also see those things translated into good curriculums for schools where we don't hesitate to put in good practices of good conduct. emphasize that. We see it, we want it in our sports people. We shouldn't have the need to test our sports people because it should be part of their nature that they conduct themselves with pride. That it is not the win that should be valued, but the effort to win and that should be valued. So this is my take on it. That we should work together as a people in small groups, spreading that message out for acceptance of each other. You see in those demonstrations persons of all colors coming out. And that is wonderful. That is truly amazing. It's emotional to see somebody I saw the other day carrying a person of another race on his back who was injured, and that is beautiful. That should be blown up all over the world that we can see. We're carrying each other. We must carry each other forward. And that's the way I see this thing working. We got to work together to beat off this COVID virus. We are doing it. We're making progress, and we will win in that. And we must win this war that is a war against racial discrimination.
Doc, thank you so much. You are absolutely correct. Leadership is so important. And unfortunately, when we lack that, whether the context is within a small organization or a community or a nation, it is very sad when we have leaders that lack integrity. And so our young people are looking up, and we thank God that you are there in Guyana and that we do so much work with the young people. And so they're the future, and it's worthwhile investing in them. But they're looking up to the older folks, and hopefully we should model
Yes.
an exemplary way of life and that focus on integrity. And I must commend a lot of the young people. Just last night, I heard a high schooler say that she's looking forward to go to college to study and focus on social justice. So
Oh,
there is
beautiful.
something within our young people that they're pursuing that avenue of wanting to change. And we thank God for this new generation that is standing up for what is right. God bless you, Dr. Sharma. We are very grateful. This conversation, we may need a part 3, but thank you. Any final thoughts, sir?
Well, my final thoughts, I'm hoping that we will have our airports open to have you back here in Guyana. We continue our work in the communities. We are doing a project here through the support of from researchers in England, which is called the ArcLight Project on resilience. And I can see how beautiful it is when small groups come together. We don't have to spread the message out to big groups. We can keep it small, and the ripple effect will take it out, and it will go out there, and it will touch the hearts of people who can make the change. That young lady who's going for social justice, she will become a leader of our societies. We need more of those.
Absolutely, Doc. And I do look forward to visiting Guyana soon. And thank you very much. And until we see again, may God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Vasconcelos.